So we're going to go live. We're flying solo tonight, it looks like. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. Let's get it on. Let's do what we need to do to keep our naughty nuggets out of the jaded jaws of the jackal of evil. All right. What the fuck was I going to do? Oh, I remember. The Thrymskvitha. It's an interesting poem. It's a real interesting poem. We read the introduction to you and tell you what they say about it, because that's kind of interesting too. Pull that out right there. Wow, what's going to happen now? See the comments. I can see it all. Really, I need a third screen. So, since we're flying solo tonight, I do have one guest in the live studio audience. The Thrymskvitha is one of the best, as it is next to the Voluspa, the most famous of the entire collection. And it's famous because the homosexuals have decided they can use it to justify excessive personal behavior. I see it another way. And hopefully I don't get kicked off of YouTube and shadow banned and everything else like all of my compatriots have. So I think we're entering a fairly unfriendly time. Its swift, vigorous action and the sharpness of its characterization and the humor of the central situation combine to make it one of the most vivid short narrative poems ever composed. That's high praise for something composed in 900. But there can be no question that he was a poet of extraordinary ability. Really? The poem assumes its present form, most critics agree, somewhere around 900. So it's been told many times before that. Why was it told that way? What's the message? What would resonate? Just a funny joke? You think a joke's going to last for fucking 900 years? I can't tell you the joke I learned last week. And you're talking about, oh, we're going to write this down because this is a joke. Okay, perhaps it is. And he keeps replying on Sophus Boog, who is obviously has the idea that the Bible is the foundation of much of the spirituality of Northern Europe, although it is not. So this story's been told for a long time, laughing around the fire. Why would it resonate with somebody's being that they would remember that tale? Well, let's just talk about it. Wild was Vingthor when he awoke, and when his mighty hammer he missed. He shook his beard, his hair was bristling as the son of Yorth about him sought. So somehow his hammer's been stolen. He's lost it. I'd be kind of pissed too. I've lost my keys in the morning or my wallet, and it's usually an ugly thing. Hear now the speech that first he spake. Hearken, Loki, and heed my words. First person he calls, the one that's always guilty. Nowhere on earth is it known to man, not in heaven above, our hammer is stolen. So, I don't know why they use the word "our," because it really should say my hammer is stolen. To the dwelling fair of Freya they went. Hear now the speech that first he spake. Wilt thou, Freya, thy feather dress lend me, so that my hammer I may seek? Freya spake, thine should it be, though of silver bright, and I would give it, though 'twere of gold. Then Loki flew in the feather dressed word, till he left behind the home of the gods and reached at last the realm of the giants. So right off the bat, Thor takes Loki, they go to see Freya, and she gives them this ability to fly, this cloak of feathers. No one's really ever gone into the depth of what that cloak of feathers means. No one really has spoken about this association with birds that routinely rise up when you're talking about Freya or Frigga, and then Odin having two ravens, and then Sigurd learning the language of the birds. There's a wisdom that those feathers represent, that spirituality that is a unique possession of women. Loki is the one individual who's kind of a switch hitter that can go back and forth, that has what it takes to put this on and flit about, literally flit about. And he goes straight to the giants. Why didn't he go somewhere else? Why didn't he go to Alfheim? Why didn't he go to his Vortelfheim? Why didn't he go down to Misty Hill? I mean, I guess it's like us going to Russia. Oh, Russia's the enemy, or China's the enemy, or who's the enemy. This uninspired human intellect has the unique ability to shift his identity into whatever situation he needs to be the most successful or not have his head cut off. This chameleon of personal behavior. Think Biden as a politician. You'll get the idea. Because quite frankly, I think that's what we're going to be dealing with. Well, I think we dealt with that with Obama. Now we're going to deal with straight up assault against who and what we are. It's as if our hammer has been stolen. Everyone got so comfortable sucking on the teat of social media and being able to say what they wanted to say and get away with it because we thought Trump was going to stand up and actually do something. And when it came down to it, they lined up to stab him in the back. Well, we need to get back to doing business the way we understand it. There's money to be made. We can understand. People will understand. Listen, that's going to go fine and dandy till you get to the people that don't want to be fucking bothered. Like me. Like most heathens. Leave us alone. Let us make our money. You do what you want in Washington, D.C. Talk about how important you are, but leave me alone. That kind of uninspired intellectual pursuit of wealth and power, though someday I may throw my hat in the ring and do my best to fuck it up graciously. We kind of have that going on here, these political ideas, this struggling. You have the masculine and the feminine, and they are forced to deal with this gender neutral individual in order to protect the realm, in order to be safe. Is that really the case? Are we really kind of in that situation? Here's a tale that's 900 years old that identifies the same kind of fucking problem we face today. Have we learned nothing from this lore that these gods have thrown us a lifeline? Have we not figured it out yet? That bastard that goes back and forth like that, wearing feathers around, flitting about, doing this, doing that, is going to cause problems for the masculine and the feminine. Thor being the very image of masculinity, Freya being the very image of femininity. And through this loss of power, they are being forced to deal with a lesser individual. Does that not seem familiar today? Thrym sat on a mound, the giant's master. Leashes of gold he laid for his dogs, and stroked and smoothed the manes of his steeds. It's a wealthy man. Leashes of gold he laid for his dogs. Sounds kind of like the people that populate Capitol Hill, kind of like the people that live in Silicon Valley. And yes, I am abusing the freedom of the society I live in to bitch about those very people. Thrym spake, how fare the gods, how fare the elves? Why comest thou alone to the giant's land? Courteous, there's hospitality, that's what you're supposed to do. Loki spoke, ill fare the gods, ill fare the elves. Hast thou hidden Hlorrithi's hammer? Thrym spake, I have hidden Hlorrithi's hammer. 8 miles down, deep in the earth, and back again shall no man bring it, if Freya I win not to be my wife. So all of these tech giants, all of the political left, seem to have taken our power, or rather we've allowed them to have it because we want to live lives of comfort and allow other people to be responsible for how well we thrive in the world. How are we going to get it back? What actions are we going to take? Are we going to give over the most beautiful prize? Are we going to sacrifice the femininity of our women to these impersonal people that want to be a part of something grander than themselves, that believe they have control? But Loki just takes the information. He just takes the information and flies back. So the masculine and feminine have had to cloak up this gender neutral individual, send him off on an errand so that he might deal with the wealthy, be it the tech giants of Silicon Valley or the elites of the Washington Capitol Hill. And now he's going to go back and give them the message. Then Loki flew in the feather dress word. I mean, if that's just not gay as it can be, I don't know what is. Till he left behind him the home of the giants. I kind of got a visual on that. Hell, I've had enough of you fellas. And he reached at last the realm of the gods. There in the courtyard, Thor met him. Hear now the speech that first he spake. Hast thou found tidings as well as trouble? Thy news in the air shalt thou utter now. Oft doth the sitter his story forget, and lies he speak who lays himself down. You see, that's kind of what we got to ask ourselves. We're sitting here depending on third-party information from individuals about all of this stuff going on, and they've all got a damned agenda. They've all got some idea. And I hate to take this from the Bible, but it's time to do it. Be the doubting Thomas. Ask yourself, why? What's the deal here? Follow the money. If nothing else, quit wasting your time, start listening to Rush. You ain't going to make it much longer. Good night. Some bitch has been right about everything he's put out there so far. Because we're facing a real regression from where we are right now. I'll kiss your ass in public and give you an hour to draw a crowd if in 6 months we still have the freedom that we think we have right now to be and say and do and live in this spirituality. Because there are people right now who find no limit to how trivial an idea they want to bitch about, and orange hair man bad, all white people bad. Are you fucking shitting me? We're all facing this. So Loki tells him, Freya the fair then went to find, hear now the speech that first he spake. Bind on, Freya, the bridal veil, for we two must haste to the giant's home. Wrathful was Freya, and fiercely she snorted, and the dwelling great of the gods was shaken, and burst was the mighty Brisingen's necklace. Most lustful indeed should I look to all if I journey with thee to the giant's home. So Loki comes in there wearing her feathers, this idea of femininity, and he says, hey, won't you take one for the team? Won't you go ahead and give up a piece of ass to this frost down over here so we can get this hammer back? If you're at a point you're willing to sacrifice some of the most romantic, powerful, loving parts and aspects of the feminine in your society to some son of a bitch who's got a bunch of money because you want to get some power, you are one of those individuals that works on Capitol Hill or Silicon Valley. It's no different. Human nature has not changed so much in 900 years that that's not going to piss a woman off. And yet every single day, there's some young lady thinks that she's going to get ahead. She's going to go ahead and try it. She'll be the trophy wife. She'll live. Well, she gets half if she gets divorced, blah, blah. No, there's a prenup. Every day it goes on. Every day there's some snake trying to make that happen to benefit himself and that society. Okay, so here's the first thing this society says. Fuck no, we're not sacrificing the feminine aspect of our women. So because this bastard over here who has all the money thinks he wants to have all the power too. No, you cannot have the feminine aspects of our society. We got to start thinking about that too. No, you can't have that aspect of our society. And they're trying it already. Give it time. I promise you. Got Joe Biden up there trying to screw with little girls and sniff at people's fucking hair. Yeah, give it a second. You think give it time. Then where the gods together met and the goddesses came. Now, when all the girls get together and they find out what happened, it's going to be an issue. I don't give a shit who you are. I don't care if you're gay and a $3 bill. Them girls are going to whip your ass for even suggesting that. But here we go. Then the goddesses came and council held, and the far-famed ones of plan would find how they might Larithi's hammer win. Then Heimdall spake, widest of the gods, like the veins he knew the future well. Bind we on Thor the bridal veil. Let him bear the mighty Brisinga's necklace. And that's troubling, isn't it? So we outright rejected the sacrifice of the feminine aspect of our society. for this bullshit. Instead of going to war and crushing this bastard and destroying everything in its path until you find it, with a steam-powered coal shovel, strip mine that whole land until you find it, which is exactly what I do, Genghis Khan style, scorched earth policy, let them fuckers never make that mistake again. The damn order of heaven says, let's dress up our most masculine symbol as a woman. Now, does that sit well with anybody? Does that sit well with anybody? Get Trump up there. We have people ready to storm the Capitol building and put Nancy Pelosi in her place and say, and point out, you stole this election. And he couldn't do it. He failed at the time when he needed to say, I caught you, bunch of fuckers. His own Justice Department cowed out. Mad because, well, they're full of snakes too. See, legal law officers are allowed to lie to get you to confess to a crime. So, I got my own opinions about that too. They're also allowed to shoot you on the side of the road if you're an ex-con for public safety and not saying nobody says a word about it. But whatever. Keys around him let their rattle, and down to his knees hang women's dress, with gems full broad upon his breast and a pretty cap to crown his head. Then Thor the mighty his answer made, me would the gods unmanly call if I let bind the bridal veil. And then Loki spake, son of Laufey, be silent, Thor, and speak not. So the fag is going to run up his mouth again. They want to spend gender neutral and all this. No. If I can do it, you can do it. If you live in a society that's willing to sacrifice the ideas of femininity and masculinity, how long does that society deserve to last? Without the clear identification of the roles necessary to promulgate that society into the future. But we want to call it a joke and laugh about it because it makes us uncomfortable. We don't like it. I really don't care if somebody is homosexual or not. I really could care less. But when you take the act, you can still be a beautiful woman, you can still be a powerful man, and be either one of those. But when you start talking about the kind of nonsense that they're talking about getting Thor to do drag queen story hour at the local library so he can get his hammer back. That kind of mental illness doesn't need to be promulgated in a society that right now doesn't understand come here from Sikkim. You will never convince me that Biden got more of the popular vote than Obama. Are you kidding me? Prove it. And yet here we go. Else will the giants in Asgard dwell if thy hammer is brought not home to thee. Says who? Says who? This guy that doesn't want to fight? This guy that wants to bring the enemy in? This guy that wants to lead massive immigration from another country into Asgard? Well, no, you can't win that fight. Want to bet? Why not find out? Then bound they on Thor the bridal veil, and next the mighty Brisingen's necklace. He fell for it. Somebody convinced him. Odin didn't say anything. Frigga didn't say anything. Gjord didn't say anything. Tyr didn't say anything. Nobody stood up to say, hey, that's not the right idea. If they have taken some symbol of power from us, we have a responsibility and an obligation to go into war to fight to get it back. Not through deceit and treachery and changing our sex and looking like a woman or trying to pawn off the beauty of our female folk. Not no, but fuck no. We have an obligation to stand up and say, you did wrong, and this is the man that I'm going to be to stop it. Since those men didn't say anything, you got to remember, Asgard's days are numbered right now. Absolutely, right now. They're already numbered. We know they're going to be a twilight of the gods. This is the kind of shit that hastens it. This is the kind of stuff Balder and Nanna and Hrot are removed from on their passage through Hell's realm, Niflheim, as they garnered the knowledge of all that went before them. This is the kind of stuff as they develop and grow as a pair and a couple on their own, away from the nonsense, and this is the nonsense that's going on behind them in their community as it begins to tear itself apart because of this kind of nonsense. Well, that's one. Well, that's not really a woman. Maybe that man could be a woman too. And that, wait a minute, I'm not really sure about this. Really? Why would you not want to be removed from that? And yet every time we turn around, there's a label to be attached to us and a neat little cubbyhole to put us in so we might be ignored and regulated after we have built this world that everyone so enjoys. Then home the ghosts to the hall were driven, then wrenched at the rafters. Swift were they to run. The mountains burst, earth burned with fire, and Odin's son sought Jotunheim. So he got a case of the ass. If he would have done that to begin with, instead of worrying about going to jail, he might have had a little success in finding his hammer. Then loud spake Thrym, the giant's leader, "Be still, ye giants, put straw on the benches. Now Freya they bring to be my bride, the daughter of Njord out of Jotunheim." Njord would never fall for that. "Gold horned cattle go to my stables, jet black oxen, the giant's joy, many my gems and many my jewels. Freya alone did I lack, methinks." Early it was to evening come, and forth was born the beer for the giants. Thor alone ate an ox and ate salmon, all the dainties as well that were set for the women, and drank Sif's mate 3 tunes of mead. Then loud spake Thrym, the giant's leader, "Whoever saw a bride more keenly bite? I never saw a bride with a broader bite, nor a maiden who drank more mead than this." So he thinks he's got himself a real woman. He thinks he's got himself a real looker. It's kind of like that scene in Coneheads where she eats that foot-long sandwich in front of Chris Farley. Same kind of thing is going on here. Hard by their set, the serving maid wise. So well she answered the giant's word. From food has Freya 8 nights fasted. So hot was her longing for Jotunheim. So now this gender-neutral jackass is going to portray her as a whore. Throw her under the bus, as it were. Talking about Thor, trying to give an explanation, but where did he come up with that idea? What's he really think about her? Because he ain't done nothing but cause problems for all of the feminine in Asgard. Thrym looked beneath the veil, for he longed to kiss, but back he leaped the length of the hall. Why are so fearful the eyes of Freya? Fire, methinks, from her eyes burned forth. If you say something like that about a woman, I promise you're going to see fire from her eyes. Right then, right there. Hard by their set, the serving maid wise. So well she answered the giant's word. Well, so hot was her longing, same answer. Soon came the giant's luckless sister, who feared not to ask the bridal fee. From my hands the rings of red gold take, if thou wouldst win my willing love, my willing love and welcome glad. Then loud spake Thrym, the giant's leader, bring in the hammer to hollow the bride. On the maiden's knees let Mjolnir lie, that us both the band of Vor may bless. The heart in the breast of Hlorrithi laughed when the hard-souled one his hammer beheld. First Thrym, the king of the giants, he killed, then all of the folk of the giants he felled. The giant's sister old he slew, she who had begged the bridal field. A stroke she got in the shilling stead, and for many rings the might of the hammer. And so his hammer got Odin's son. So there's a lesson in that too. Not only is the society which encourages this sacrifice of feminine aspects and masculine aspects destroyed, so too is the society which begins to accept it, and it's done much more rapidly. Can we legitimately look at these things, these ancient tales, and make comparisons to today's world? I think we are remiss if we do not. I think we are remiss if we do not look at all of these tales with the mindset of a doubting Thomas and question what's really going on around us. See, we've had this time to get a foundation under our feet of who and what we really are, what we really stand for. We've had the opportunity to stand here and really cultivate who we're supposed to be. And yet now all of a sudden, the very legitimacy of that is put to the test, and we are once again looking at actions, just like here in the Thrymskvitha, where a woman, the feminine aspect of Asgard, is they're trying to pimp her out to the giant to get the hammer back, and then the warder of heaven himself, for some damn dumb reason, decides, hey, we'll put Thor in a dress. So they take the most masculine image of Asgard, put him in a dress to go over there, and instead of standing up and kicking the stinking shit out of that entire place and burning it to the ground, running over it with a bulldozer until they find that hammer. So we can't afford to be pussyfooting around with the things that are facing us. I promise you, there will be things that come along down the line that we're going to look at and go, oh my gosh. Chim's been saying it for a decade now. Get a tribe. Get some people around you. And I have been taking it one step further. Get some people around you, but don't be buying into a bunch of horse shit being sold, pushed off by David Lane or your National Socialist, or these kind of half-assed ideas of a white ethno-state and all that other shit, because it ain't going to get you anybody. Sure enough, somebody's going to come along and say, well, I know a little, you're not quite enough for me. You're a little too lenient on this kind of idea, and you don't hate this person or this group of people as much as I do. I don't know that you're qualified or man enough to hang out with me, so I'm going to leave you behind. And as I do so, I'm going to ridicule you mercilessly for being less than. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that shit happen. So now here we are, boosting our ego on political ideas for fucking decade, instead of cultivating a powerful spiritual foundation so we might understand principles we need to stand on and clearly see them in our lore and understand how to say, no, you move. And we're facing an absolute moron entering political office with control of the Senate. And you think we're going to be able to continue on talking all this nonsense about what we think we are? Do not be fooled at what is happening here. Don't be confused about what is coming down the pike. Get ready for massive immigration. You might as well see Loki on the shore right now, waving in tankers full of immigrants. Come on in here, boys. Yeah, here we go. We got some land over here. Yep, come on in. People that lived in mud huts 30 days ago are going to come in here. They're not going to assimilate. They're going to tear this into a bunch of shit like they did their old place. But if you say a word about it, you'll be labeled a racist, you'll be charged with a hate crime, and then your ability to purchase a firearm or pay taxes or buy goods or drive a car, then what? Then next thing you know, we're going to have a number on our arm right there. When the oppressed become the tyrannical oppressor, look through history and tell me how many times it's happened when the oppressed become the tyrannical oppressors. Shit, look at Christianity. For nothing else. You know how they did it? They had a spiritual foundation. And here we are still talking about political ideas that are 75 fucking years old, and we have no competent ability to overcome that many years, that many decades of media programming on a society who does not consider anything that we do to have a legitimate spiritual foundation. This is the thing that bothers me the most. And it's right here in our lore. That tale was put together in 900. Probably been talked about for 1,000 years. Oh, it's just a joke. That ain't no fucking joke. That's a parallel right now of what's going on today. The wealthy in Washington and Silicon Valley stole the hammer, took our power. Now they want the most beautiful aspects of our feminine women. And we got to wear a dress if we want to get it back. Ask any little boy going to school today if he's allowed to be a boy. Tell me that's not happening right now. If we don't wake up and find a secure spiritual foundation for this stuff to stand on principle that looks like it provides positive purpose, guidance, and direction for people on a daily basis, we're going to be summarily ignored, categorized, and shoved to the side of a society. I personally served 7 years in the infantry to fucking build. Do I look like I'm the kind of guy that's going to slide quietly into the dark? Probably not. These are the things we need to be paying attention to. Not some political idea, some bullshit that fucking fires up the righteous indignation of the uninspired and the uninitiated. Not the book learning of those people who, though they read the words, possess not the wisdom of the words they've written or read. We need true men now. And we need true men that have what it takes to stand up and say, that beautiful woman over there is something I'll fight for at the door of my home all day long. More furthermore, here's 100 other motherfuckers that I call friends that'll help me do it. That's where we're at. I know a lot of people will look at that and say, God damn, Brian, that's so radical. That's just not typically you. Maybe I am being a little radical. You know why there's a pandemic? So you can't get 100 people together. The world is changing in radical, ever more radical ways every single day. Now, how are you going to adapt to it? Or are you going to stand firm and make your money and make your living and start becoming self-reliant and become what we're supposed to become? And you start writing letters to Putin, see if we can have a small piece of that Vladivostok Peninsula or somewhere over there, Siberia. Get them Koreans to get mammoths back up there again. Yeah, I got a spear. I'll kill a mammoth. Jesus fuck. At any rate, I'm done. I'm off my soapbox for a second. Has anybody got anything they want to say? Oh, hell. Here we go.
I think, Brian, that there's a good possibility that there's a mobilization of things going on military. I heard that the Insurrection Act was signed, and there's some like military airspace blackout over Washington, D.C. And it seems to be connected supposedly with the blackouts in Pakistan and Italy, that there's some kind of something going down, like some arrests or something, like 195,000 warrants or arrest things that are going to be going down. So supposedly Biden really isn't going to be stepping in there. He's going to be arrested.
Well, hey, if Trump will pull it out, it'll restore my faith in it, because right now he's like a pop and no kick motherfucker. He got up there and had a chance to take all of that Washington establishment that every one of us hate, and he couldn't do it. And I don't know if I see a bunch of special ops soldiers working for Congress now. I don't see if they have the balls to go up there and do it. There's too much money. There's too much money and power. I mean, I would love to see that. I would love to see that hair sniffing freak go to jail. I really would. Sniffing little kids' hair.
First thing I want to say is 6 Semper Tyrannis, but I see a lot of people getting all in despair here, but not too many people seem to even know what Executive Order 1776 is.
Hey, tell us. Lay it out there, Jason. Tell them.
You guys familiar with Nasara or Jasara?
Say what?
You guys familiar with Nasara or Jasara?
Mm-mm. Don't be vague. Spill it. Spill the beans.
Well, you have to look them up. It was stuff that basically is going to a metal-based currency, forgiving consumer debts, and basically re-educating everybody on the values of America in 1776 and what we're all about. Main thing is you can Google it, and Trump signed it the night of November the 2nd and goes into effect 120 days later, which puts us on April Fool's Day, as if Biden got in, and it's like, joke's on you, you're going to jail. because it's a committee that's set up to first reestablish the values of America as it was intended, reviewing the education system, going through media, all that stuff. It's a pretty big thing. It's a huge committee. It does not say elected. It does not say that you're getting paid or hired, but you are removed for failure to perform. And the committee, once it is in place, gets to pick its chairman, which I don't know about you, but that I would pick Trump for that.
I think I would be a fine chairman for such a post.
But there's specialties. There's people doing just like a corporation. You know, there's the economy, which if we go to the metal-based and they forgive the consumer debts, it cuts the central banking system right out.
Man, that's just too big a deal. You know what? If that were to happen, there would be a war. That's a big deal, man. I mean, I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could buy into all of that. I mean, I would like to see it, but you know, that's just a big. There's too much money in making money. You know.
Oh, no, I agree.
But now, if that were to come about, hey, that'd be fantastic. But right now, I don't.
Look it up. Make your own opinion. It was signed the night of November 2nd, and a lot of people didn't even notice. A lot of people didn't even know.
I'm gonna ask Lana about it.
You can Google it.
Well, I can Google a lot of shit. You can Google Brian Wilton. Motherfucker looks impressive as hell.
True story.
Right? Right now he's sitting in a basement talking shit.
I mean, you didn't have to tell me it was a basement. You could have sold me on the idea it was your compound. But
I should hold up in my compound in northern Minnesota.
But Bunker Wilton. So speaking of, you said you wanted to get at us last week. We're both here, so
I forgot what I was even fucking talking about. Oh yeah, when we're done, I do want to talk to you too. Yeah, you're exactly who I want to talk to. So when we get done with our little deal here, let's all stay on here and we'll talk. Everett, I know you got a fucking thing to say about all this because you heard me talking shit.
Insurrection Act and Trump's going to pull it out and that's all bullshit.
It ain't.
Biden is going to be president. Now, I do think that they're talking about the 25th Amendment, not because they want to use it with Trump, but they want to get it into the public's consciousness so that when they pull it with Biden and get Mama Kamala in there so that they can yank Biden out without being, and people will already look. People don't know where they get information from or when they got information. As long as it's something that sounds familiar, they've heard before. They did a whole movie on it. I don't know if you ever saw the Eddie Murphy movie, A Distinguished Gentleman.
Gosh, watch The Social Dilemma on Netflix.
So people will think, literally, this sounds ridiculous, but I always say we're all bald apes. People will think that the 25th Amendment, that they've known about it because they vaguely remember that there was something that they heard in school 30 years ago. And then, oh, no, the 25th Amendment's always been there. And, oh, no, it's never been used before, but it's always been there. And obviously, and people will accept its use, but only because they've been talking about it for a year prior to using it to get Biden out. I don't think Biden's going to stay in there. I think Biden was just a red herring. But Trump. Look, if there's some military coup, and that's what it would be a military coup. If Trump signs an Insurrection Act and uses the military to stop the transition of power, that's a coup.
Yes.
Now he might be able to. We could argue about, well, it's actually the law, but whatever. It's a coup. It's a coup. So if that's what happens, then that's what happens. But I don't see it happening because it would mean an all-out war. Parts of the military would not agree. Other parts of the military would agree. Every city would burn. It would be just a shit show beyond. It just, all that stuff is just fantasy.
Everett, that's the deal.
Mm-hmm.
As well as I do, we all have friends that are at that point right now, waiting on someone to give them permission to go do all this. And General Flynn, I've already heard General Flynn is already ready to do what he needs to do.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people who are.
Now,
But
can a soldier disobey an unlawful order? Yes, he can.
absolutely he can. And
Will he do it?
Not only can he, he's required to.
He is
But then-
required to. Will he do it?
Now, I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
No, he
I'm
won't. There's
I'm
too
just telling
many. You ask some of them
But-
boys from Afghanistan how many times they kicked open a door and killed every man, woman, and child in that room because his
Right.
buddy got shot in the house before it.
Mhm. I'm
Promise.
just, all I'm saying is that all this stuff is just fantasy stuff. It's none of that shit's going to happen. It's mental masturbation. Biden is going to be president for at least a period of time. Maybe he stays in for all 4 years.
About a year
But
and a
he's
half.
going to be president for. He's going to be president for at least a period of time, and in 2 years, it's very likely the Republicans are going to take back at least one house of the Congress. In the meantime, we're just going to have to muddle through. That's just all. That's the way it is.
You're probably right. You're probably right. But we do have to muddle through. But that's my point, Everett. Is we had all of this time to fucking actually build something solid for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we spent it fucking arguing with fucking dickheads on the internet and failing to build anything of a spiritual significance that might have some legitimacy behind it. Something that might say we have all of these dickheads. Well, they're not heathen enough. Shut the fuck up. Freya said it best. She said it all comes from the same well.
Yep. Yep.
Well,
but I agree with you wholeheartedly. You and I are on the same page.
Oh, I know.
And it's just that's just unfortunately that's the nature of people, right? When things are good and things people can say about how terrible it is and unemployment. The truth is that we live in a very kind time in human history. As bad as it is, as bad as it could be for us, if we snatch somebody from 1,500 years ago and drop them in society today, they would have a fucking field day. If we could rapidly catch them up with all the technology and everything, so that they're accustomed to living 1,500 years ago, and then suddenly they could acclimate to living today, it would be the easiest thing in the world for them. It would just be like, what are you guys bitching about? Like, you have big stores that have food in it. You know how we'd go days without food, you bitchy motherfuckers,
I know, right?
We're loaded with food, we're loaded with wealth, and because we're so loaded with food, and because we're so loaded with wealth, and because humans have to have something to bitch about, they start nitpicking little things.
Well, that's going to change, Eric. When you shut everything down and the communities are no longer collecting the sales tax revenue that they once were, the many millions of dollars that pay those muni bond interest payments, and then their credit rating goes from a AAA to a C+, and then they have to pay 27% interest to get, it's going to be a problem.
And supply lines gets, as Elon Musk said, it doesn't come from a horn of plenty. People have to make stuff. You can print as much money as you want, but people got to make shit. And when supply lines go down, absolutely. When things start getting tough, then suddenly you'll see how quickly these petty disagreements get pushed to the side and ignored.
You want to see shit get tough? Let them food stamp benefits not come in at the first of the month. I promise you shit will get tough. You mark my words on that, baby.
No, well, here's the thing. Food stamp benefits will continue to go because they're funded by the federal government. So food stamp benefits will continue to be delivered. What will happen is a loaf of bread will cost $50.
Yep.
So the food stamp benefits won't be worth anything. That's what's going to happen.
Probably. I mean, probably right. But at the point, I don't know. It's just, this just sucks. I can't believe we let them steal. They stole a fucking election. I mean, they literally stole a fucking election.
I wish. By the way, just so you know, I wish it was possible that Trump was going to stay in. I was hoping that some court would listen. Because it's so obvious that it was just bullshit.
Oh gosh.
So I was hoping that we'd be able that he would win.
I thought it was suspicious nobody would touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, none of the courts would touch it. But they all remembered what happened to that judge who was that judge who a fake FedEx driver came up and put a hole in her husband's head and shot her kid. And you remember that recently, a couple of years ago?
What he
The federal
doing
court
something?
judge.
Yeah, he's doing something against the Clintons.
Yeah, there was there was she
Well,
was
that's
she was a
sad,
chief
though.
judge. It was that guy who supposedly killed himself. That guy who bullshit killed himself.
Mhm.
Epstein. She was on a case that was related to the Epstein case. And
Oh
suddenly
yes, I do remember
some
that.
FedEx driver came up and put a hole in her husband. Fucking wasted her husband, wasted her kid. I think one of them survived, either her husband or kid. But what they were basically telling her is nobody. What they're telling these judges is nobody's out of reach.
No, they're
you think
not.
that really was just a fake FedEx? Oh yeah, I'm going to dress up like a FedEx driver and be a burglar and happen to just come up to this judge's house when she's working on this bullshit. They were sending her a message.
That's
Yeah.
the kind of stuff that should make people want to scorch the earth, not want.
Yeah.
That's exactly
scorch
right.
the earth. It's like you just took everything that meant something to me. Congratulations. Let's see how it feels for you.
I hope. I'm really hoping that the states secede. I hope the middle of the country secedes from the union. I hope Texas and Oklahoma. I don't know. The Indian tribes in Oklahoma are going to side with the government. I don't know why, but they would. They're Democrats.
Because they get a lot of money from the government.
Well, they're Democrats. I mean, them fucking Indians are mostly Democrats for some fucking reason. Well, I know why. Because Andrew Stonewall Jackson is the one that moved them all. He was a Republican. Yeah. And they still hate him. The motherfuckers won't carry a 20, I promise.
It's funny. My father is the kind of man that sat there and complained not too long ago about all the illegal immigrants coming in, taking our jobs and sending money overseas to like Israel and all this other stuff. And I had to call him out on him, like, you sound an awfully lot like a Trump supporter. But because he was UAW, he just votes Democrat every time, even though he complains about everything they do.
The union, yeah, my dad was in the Teamsters until Oklahoma became a right to work state. And the instant became right to work, he left because they never did a fucking thing for him. But at any rate, we digress. We can cuss and discuss this all at once. But the churches get away with a lot of shit politically and everything else. And we've had the opportunity to build something like that. And we have fucked it up. So it's time to fix it.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the problem. Here's the problem with heathens is that everybody remember Van Jones?
Yeah.
He was in the first he was for a very short period of time in the first Obama administration. Now he's a CNN guy, but he's a radical progressive, probably a communist, really, if truth be told.
Yes, it's true.
But he said, there's a quote of him, and I never forgot this quote, and I never forgot the essence of the quote. So let me say that. But what he said is, we gave up the radical pose in order to get to the radical ends. And what he meant by the radical pose, he gave up the long hair and the dressing funky and the going out and doing the stuff. And they started dressing in suits and ties and in a very conservative way. So he gave up the radical pose to get to the radical ends.
Yeah.
And that's
brilliant.
That's where heathenry has fallen off the rails. Why? Because everybody says, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. I'm you know what I mean? Like, I'm not dressing like that. I'm not, you can't tell me how to do this. You can't tell me. Yeah. Okay. So, as long as everybody is not willing to highlight how heathens are the same as everybody else, just with a different spiritual belief, as long as everybody's not willing to highlight that, as long as everybody's not willing to focus on what we have in common with the host society, we're always going to be the religion that you have to explain.
That's a really good point, actually. I actually nailed that same exact point over the summer when I was with a group, and they wanted me to be a spokesman, and I couldn't do it with other stuff I got on my plate.
All right, that's I'm gonna leave it with that, Everett, because that's something to think about for everybody that listens to this tomorrow. Yep. And I am going to get off here because it's 8:56. I want to talk to you and Anna when we get done here real quick. But,
okay.
Guys, just stay on the line. I'll talk to you in a little bit. Renee, I saw that you tried to call me. I called you on New Year's Day to wish you a Happy New Year's, but then I realized it was early in the fucking morning. That's why I called.
Well, Happy New Year's.
America.
Happy New Year's. I'll talk to you later, Everett. We'll see you.
All right, bye.
Renee,
Bye,
I'll talk
thanks.
to you soon.
Thanks, Brian.
Bye-bye.
Bye.